Hello, my name's Melanie and I'll be presenting on behalf of our group Bauhaus One for Assessment 1. Our topic is the Bauhaus. So here's a summary of our team members, Karen, Sophie, Brittany and me. So as a group we have discussed and researched a number of Bauhaus practitioners and their work demonstrating their education styles. During the presentation today, we will be discussing creativity and education at the Bauhaus and its influence on interior design. In further detail, we will cover forces that shape the Bauhaus, ideas and catalysts of the practitioners' work that came from the Bauhaus, and the philosophies and politics surrounding the Bauhaus. So here is a timeline for the Bauhaus, just for an overall view and a starting point. So the meaning of Bauhaus is building house or school of building. The aim of the school was to create a total work of art through the design education of arts and trades, merging together to create the whole architecture. It was founded in Germany in 1919 by architect Walter Gropius, and the school sought to assist the displaced and economically rebuild Germany. Now, despite its short duration of 14 years, it has been highly influential on modern art design and architecture due to its high output of educational influence, creativity, design, production, and its legacy on modern architecture. The school's influence spread throughout Europe to the USA and internationally. Now we're going to move into the preliminary course and what was taught to new students. So the Bauhaus, or the preliminary design course, was a creative design course taught to new students at the Bauhaus before they were distributed to a workshop. Bauhaus is represented in the Bauhaus seal as the outer circle, the same as the outer circle in the curriculum diagram, leading to the centre, creating the highest art, architecture. The course was led by 3 teachers, and political changes of the time were reflected internally. So the first teacher we will discuss is Johannes Ittens, who taught from 1919 to 1923, and whose legacy is artistic creativity in design education. Ittens was a master of form and created the program based on the avant-garde. He was not critical, believing in self-evaluation to foster creativity. Ittens has influenced art and interior design through colour theory studies, along with Vasily Kandinsky and Paul Klee. This course was influential in the teaching of design in architecture through learning by making. Next, we have Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, who taught from 1923 to 1928, and whose legacy is technical design using prototypes and design communication. He supported Gropius's aims of unifying art and technology, and his philosophy was rational rather than romantic. Inspiration shifted from nature to the machine aesthetics of industry. He influenced interior design through developments in lighting design, experimental photography, film, graphics, and typography. After the Bauhaus, he set up his own studio for typography, photography, photo montage, and exhibition design. And finally, Josef Alberts, who taught from 1928 to 1933, and his legacy is in design and production through efficiency of materials. Alberts continued the work of Moholy-Nagy as master of form and head of the carpentry workshop. He continued artistic activities and developed them in designing for invention for optimum function. Alberts was influential in teaching design using simple tools to explore the characteristics of materials like paper, wood, and metal, with a focus on spatial structures and their material function. His influence on interior design has been seen in glass pictures, everyday furniture, and utilitarian products made of wood and glass. Now moving on to the theatre workshop and the triadic ballet. So the Bauhaus School, which was mostly concerned with architecture and design, was the first official school to include performance art into the curriculum. It was conducted through the stage workshop, originally taught by Oskar Schlemmer, a painter, sculptor, and avant-garde artist interested in translating the visual language to the language of performance art. Schlemmer's belief that there could provide a counterbalance to architecture was a central part of his theory. The triadic ballet was his opportunity to translate the relationship between art and industry. However, it was not portrayed well towards audiences outside the Bauhaus. One of Schlemmer's biggest supporters and colleagues was Kandinsky, a true supporter of new approaches. Schlemmer's philosophy of abstract theory included concepts of being, knowing, identity, time, and space. The idea of experimenting with dancers to portray the feeling of volume and sensation of space through three-dimensional geometric costumes. Very few in the industry recognise the impact of space, particularly as an element in architecture. So here we have Oskar Schlemmer's gesture dance movement diagram. So Schlemmer physically translated his art into performance with basic geometry. The whole space can evolve with just a straight line, diagonal, circle, or a curve. A mechanical play of form, colour, and figures exuded Bauhaus methodology. This was explored further in the Bauhaus theatre group. I'm just going to play a little video now. And the three-part series of the Triadic Ballet consisted of 12 dancers and 18 costumes, made from paper mache, painted in metallic and coloured paint. The costumes originally formed spatial cubical constructions that transformed the human face. Each body part created Schlemmer's interpretation of moving architecture. It can be surmised that Schlemmer's attempt to morph two-dimensional designs into architecture is plausible, essentially solving the Bauhaus's dilemma in translating one art form to another. The stage workshop represented a platform for experimentation and investigation into Schlemmer's theory. So another workshop we'll discuss is the weaving workshop and the women artists involved in one of the most successful and productive workshops at the Bauhaus. It opened in 1990 under Johannes Itten. Women were assigned almost exclusively to the weaving workshop, and there are many ideas of systematic sexism within the Bauhaus's organisational structure and the value of so-called women's work. This suggested that textiles were viewed as secondary to all other Bauhaus products. An example of this can be analysed in the photograph Bauhaus scene, shown here on the left. The club chair, model B3, is almost exclusively credited to Marcel Breuer, despite the collective artistic contributions of mostly women. The fabric that makes up the dress in Bauhaus scene was created and designed by Liz Bayer-Volger in the weaving workshop. The chair's fabric seat was developed also by women, and their identities remain unmentioned in most publications. The model wears a stage mask, which is credited to theatre master Oskar Schlemmer, who we just discussed previously. So Liz Bayer's use of rigorous geometric abstraction in the fabric design of Bauhaus dress shows her engagement with modern architectural styles and concepts. Weaving designers adopted the school's architectural direction and adapted it to their own medium through prioritising function, simplicity, neutral colours, and subtle textures. Under the direction of designer and weaver Gunther Stolz, experimentation with untraditional materials such as fiberglass, cellophane, and metal was encouraged. The Bauhaus's form and colour theory was taught primarily by Klee and Kandinsky, who greatly influenced students' processes and the study of compositional properties and materials. Here we can see some notes from Paul Klee's course and a watercolour study adopting those elements. And here's another example of Gunther Stolz's adopting colour theory and composition for her work, Wall Hanging. Another prominent textile artist was Annie Albers, who advocated for experimentation in the woven structure, a renewed approach to design through handloom weaving, and she proposed a future of mass textile production. She believed that the way toward mass production must come through an understanding of the craft, with the merging of craft and mechanical production. Others experimented with complex methods of double weaving and used industrial technology like the jacquard. In one of her texts, she reveals her critique of a society that values efficiency and speed over slow but more variable handwork. This is a reflection in society and the economic and technological forces of the time. The desire to develop relations between woven things and human subjects. She continued to create and write about modern textiles throughout her life. And finally, we will discuss Bauhaus now and its influence on today. There is an inverse relationship between the brief existence of the Bauhaus and the profound cultural impact it has on design today. It can be hard to believe that something so brief can leave such a lasting legacy. Following the closure of the Bauhaus and the political unrest in Germany at the time, many highly talented Bauhaus teachers and students immigrated to the USA, Switzerland, Russia, Israel, and beyond, continuing to educate and influence others on the Bauhaus design philosophy. Radical and ahead of its time, the Bauhaus today is considered, among many, a driving force in modernism in the 20th and 21st centuries. A key factor in this would be the success of Marcel Breuer's collaboration with Bonnet on tubular bent steel and its application to the design of the cantilever chair. A few designs that feature this material structure are the Club, Seska, and Vasily Kandinsky chairs, and are considered classics that frequently appear in modern interior design today. It is the Bauhaus trademark attitude of curiosity and investigation that remains relevant in architecture, interior design, and design education today. Over the years, the Bauhaus model has been criticised for its emphasis on art and aesthetic over function. It is argued that there was little emphasis on the people for whom the objects were being designed, no discussion about practicality or everyday usage. In an ever-growing and changing society, we depend more and more on the technologies around us to make life simpler, but to achieve simplicity requires great technicality and thought. For example, it took the commercially inclined spirit of an institution like IKEA to truly realise Gropius's ambition of reconciling arts and industry in order to make affordable consumer goods for the masses. IKEA embodies a model that reflects the Bauhaus utopian ideal combined together with the growing technological needs of a society today. So in summation, our challenge is to craft a contemporary curricular response to the specific conditions of our time. This is what the Bauhaus did in its day, and it is what we must do now. The true influence on the Bauhaus lies at the hands of the educators and inspirers. What we see today is a collaborative effort between the experimentation of the past and the innovation from the present, paving the way for future generations to come. So that concludes our presentation on the Bauhaus. I hope you enjoyed and gained some insight into the topics which we discussed. Thanks again for watching. Bye.